What's going on? Aaron Goldsten here. So what we're going to talk about in this video is the three types of businesses. There's three different types, three different specific businesses out there that exist. And any business that actually exists falls into one of these three categories. And the reason this is so important to you and why this video is going to be so beneficial to you is because most people, I'd say 90 to 95% plus, actually get involved in the wrong type of business. And when you get involved in the wrong type of business from where you're at, you have the tendency to, it's very easy to lose a lot of money. And the worst thing, the thing you want to avoid that you don't want to do is spend time and money to start a business, have months or even years go by, then you have to close the business, and then you're now in a worse situation than where you were before you even got started. Unfortunately, so many people fall victim to this because most popular businesses out there are the wrong type of businesses that the average person should get involved in. In this video, I'm going to explain the three types of businesses that exist and share them with you, share you the criteria for each of them, so you'll know moving forward if you're thinking about getting started in a business or starting a business or getting involved in the business, you'll be able to categorize it and you'll be able to say, all right, which category does it, which business type does it fall into? Does it fall into number 1, number 2, or number 3? So, let's go ahead and dive right into it. Business type number 1 is where the risk is very low. So it's the safest business to get into. And it's the best business to get into if you don't want to lose a lot of money, if you don't have a lot of money to get started, and while you're kind of growing as a person and figuring out all the fundamentals of it. So let me kind of give you a couple examples so this makes sense. Have a buddy of mine, he has a lawn mowing company. And when he got started, it was him mowing lawns. So what he would do is he would find someone, and find someone that had a nice house, had a pretty big sized lawn, and he would get them to pay him to mow their lawn, and he would kind of trim up, the trees, and he'd make the whole lawn look nice. And he realized when he was doing this, he could make significantly more doing this per hour than he was at his job. That's how this first type of business is. This first type of business is a business where it's going to be a lot of you. So you getting good at a skill set, getting good at a craft, getting good at a skill, and making a good amount of money per hour you spend executing on the skill. So for him, let's say he was making $10, $15 an hour at a job, he could. And you realize, wow, every hour I spend, working on someone's lawn, they might pay me, $20, $30, $40 plus, depending on what I'm doing. That's pretty good. Another example is mom. My mom, she was a counselor. And she was a counselor, and she would counsel people. And she used to work for a counseling company. Well, she transitioned, and she started her own counseling business where, she now meets with clients one-on-one, and now she makes all the money from that. So she probably doesn't want me to say how much she was making, but she's making about 3 times more being her own counselor, working for herself, than she was working for, a company, a business. The way that I did this is selling items on eBay. The first item that I bought for $80. So I bought this physical item for $80. I sold it that day on eBay for $190. There's little fees, little shipping, stuff like that. But afterwards, and the person I bought it from had 2. So I bought 2 items for $80 each, and I sold them each on eBay. They sold the day that I bought them. I bought them for $80 each. Each sold on eBay that day for $190 each. The total amount of work, the total amount of effort was about an hour worth of effort, an hour worth of work. And I made, I don't have the exact number, but it was around like 100, after shipping and fees and everything, it was like $160 or $180 in profit. Back then, I was working at a job, so that was like, I would have had to work at my job 8 hours for 3 days in a row to make that. So does that kind of make sense? The first type of business is a business where you're going to be learning a skill set, and that skill set is going to pay you a lot of money per hour that you spend working. Now, what's the benefit of this? What's the benefit of this type of business? You can get started with these type of businesses with usually just a little bit of money. What did I need to get started in my eBay flipping business? Well, I needed $160. That's not a lot of risk. I wasn't going out there and opening up a McDonald's. I needed $1.5 million in. What was the risk my mom had? Well, Mom, she got a website, and she had to host a website. I think that was about $50, $100 a year. It's not a whole lot of money she had to put into it. Her other expense was whenever she would get a client, she was renting out office space, but she would only pay per hour she would rent out the office space. So if she had a client, she would pay like $10 to rent out the office space. But if she didn't have a client, she didn't have to pay anything. So it's not like, as my mom was learning how to market, as she was learning how to kind of attract clients, in the beginning, she didn't have a bunch of clients. It took her a little bit to get the clients, but it's not like she went out there and she signed a 12-month lease with this big, fancy, exclusive downtown office where there was a staff up front and she was paying $5,000 a month. She didn't do anything silly like that. She kept her expenses real low so she wasn't losing money. And then as her skill set grew, she's actually now at the point where she has a little office that she works out of, and she pays monthly for it. And but as she was growing it, she didn't have to worry about spending a lot of money. So that's the first type of business. The second type of business is the business that I actually recommend most people avoid. It's a business that most people are attracted to. So, one of the things that I did was, a handful of years ago, I wanted to start a restaurant. So I put about $35,000 into this restaurant because I had to pay for first and last month's rent up front. We were starting to renovate and redo everything on the inside. And I messed up some things and the restaurant never opened. And I lost about $35,000 of my own money. That's what happened. It's okay. I've recovered. Okay. But that's what happened. And a lot of people think that if they want to start a business, they need to, they need to quit their job, and they kind of got to do they think that they do what I did. The kind of thing that I started a restaurant, right? I put all my money into this thing. Or that they need to quit their job and put 10 or 20 or 30 or raise a bunch of money and put it into something. I knew these ladies and they had a candy store, and it didn't seem like it was that profitable, but they pretty much put everything into this candy store, so now they're kind of forced to work it, and they were literally working like 12-hour day shifts each. I think they were working like 80 or 90 hours each a week, because they went all in this candy store, and they put everything into it. They quit their jobs. They put all their money to open it up and to sign the lease and to redo everything inside. And I'm sure to get all the candy up front, they needed to get the candy up front to stock it. So now they were stuck with kind of working it. And I'm not saying those businesses can't be successful, but the problem with those type of businesses number two, is it's pretty risky. You need a lot of money up front to be able to fund something like that. A lot of times it takes a lot of time, and most businesses, guys, pretty much every business is running into problems. If you've ever started a business, you know that lots of businesses run into problems. So the problem is if you go all in with something, and maybe the business takes a while to get started, so maybe you need a few $1,000s here or there to cover rent or employees. Maybe you need it for advertising or marketing. Maybe something happens, right? The employee steals and you need to come out a few $1,000s out of pocket to fund it. If you go all in with this type of business number two, it's very hard. So what I see people do is they'll be like, you know what? I'm going to do this thing. And they'll take out a loan from a bank for $250,000. They put all that into something. And, it's like it has to work out and there's no room for failure. And I'm not saying those don't work, but those are very risky. And I recommend people avoid that. What would be the best thing to do is start off with business number one. Once you get business number one going, where you're making $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year, then if you'd like, start business number two. And then if something happens with business number two, you have money to fund it. So think about it. If I started that restaurant for $35,000, and let's say I had another business where I was making about $200,000 a year on. If the restaurant, something happens with the restaurant, I need some more money, things are going to happen, right? It takes a few more months to get started than I think I need to, and I need to fund it with $3,000 or $5,000 or $8,000. I can do that because I have a level 1 type of business over here where I'm making about $200,000 a year, and I can use money from this to fund this business right here. So that is kind of the safe way to go about things, and that's the way, this is the format to follow, to where the expenses are low, risk is low, and you kind of grow, you grow with the business instead of, it's just an overall safer way. Third way, business number 3, is where you're putting money into some long-term investment, where it could be rental properties. Maybe you got a 40-unit apartment complex that you're getting, or maybe you have maybe you open up a bunch of McDonald's. Something like that is those type of things. Level 3 businesses are pretty established. The chance of failure is pretty low. Think about it, if you find an apartment complex, a 40-unit apartment complex, by a college that's been around for 150 years, and there was a Walmart over here, and there was a Whole Foods down here, and there was a movie theater here, and a mall here, there's a bunch of schools over here. That type of business isn't going to make you, it's not necessarily going to make you a bunch of money, but it's very solid income. It could be a very solid 6, 8, 10, 12, 40% a year that's coming kind of residually. It's kind of automated. And you don't have to worry as much about that type of business. A regular type of business, things happen. There's competition, problems come up. So a regular type of business, usually your time and your attention and your energy is going to be more invested in it. But once you kind of go from level 1, what you'll see some very successful people do is they'll go from a level 1 type of business. They'll use that to fund a level 2 type of business. The level 2 type of business will really expand. It'll expand, it'll get bigger. They'll make a bunch of money with that. They'll sell that business, and then they'll use the money from that to go into a level 3 type of business where they get maybe 20 Chipotles, 20 McDonald's, maybe a total of 200 units of apartment complexes total. The people, if they're paying, let's say, $1,500 a month for rent, the next year they're probably not going to pay $5,000 a month for rent. It's probably not going to go up like that, but what will happen is it's stable, it's consistent, it's solid. So those are the 3 different types of businesses, and of course what I recommend is starting off on business number 1.